Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, my lovely students. And today I'm going to give you a short review about least common multiple, just for small things that most of the students asked me to do that. And it's going to be very easy way, but it's a little bit different than the people thought about it previously. Sorry for the background; is a little bit noisy here at this coffee place. And I'm just going to show you how you are going to take some of the examples of having the least common multiple. Let's say that what is the least common multiple? I'm just going to write down a question here. So I will say that what is the least common multiple or common denominator. We name it also common denominator, least common multiple, LCM, common denominator for, let's take, for example, two numbers for now. We take two numbers. So let's take a 24 and we take also 16. Look at this. So I'm gonna put, doesn't matter how I am going to order the numbers, but I'm gonna make a vertical line like this, very beautiful line, and write down 24 here and 16 in here. The first thing I start with is to write down my prime factors, which is 2, 3, 5, 7, and the rest, which is not important, but we know these first prime factors. Now, the first question is any of these numbers divisible by the first prime factors, which is 2? Yes, both of them. So I'm going to write down 2 here, and I'm going to do the division. So 24 divided by 2 gives me 12. 16 divided by 2 is going to give me an 8. Is this prime factor, which is 2, can be any of the what's left in here after the division? Is there any of the prime factor, is any of these two numbers, at least one of them, is still divisible by 2? Yes, it is, both of them. Actually, 12 divided by 2 gives me 6, and 8 divided by 2 gives me 4. So I'm going to continue that as much as I can. So again, is any of these divisible by 2? Yes, of course. 6 divided by 2, 3. 2 divided by 2 is 2. Any of these still divisible by 2? I can say yes. So this one, 3, is not divisible. So you write it down as it is. You don't change it. This is important. So you don't change it, but the other one is going to be 1 because 2 divided by 2 is 2. Now, the last thing is any of these numbers, we get one of them 1. So any of these 2 still divisible by 2? Not anymore. So we go to the next prime factor. So the next prime factor is actually number 3. Any of these 2 divisible by 3? If yes, we continue. If no, then we go to the next prime factor. But it is yes. So now we got 3 divided by 3, which is going to give me 1, and the 1 will stay as it is. When you get to 1, 1, so you are going to write down here a stop sign. So this is a stop sign. We don't continue. Now we are going to multiply all of these numbers. So we multiply from the bottom because it's easier. We multiply bigger number. So 3 times 2 is 6, times 2 is 12, times 2 is 24, times 2 is 48. So we are going to say that the least common multiple for 16 and 24 is 48. That's the idea. Now let's say that these 24 and 16 comes as a denominator of 2 fractions. So I'm going to say that if I want to make an example here, and I'm actually add, and I will say, let's take a 5 divided by 24 plus, it will make a 3 divided by 16. So we know that the least common multiple, guys, it is 48. So this means that we have to make both denominator 48. So how do we do that? Well, you can see that there's a 24 here. Do you see this 24 here? Now I want you to find 24 from the factors, which is here. Do you see that? What's the 24? Let's repeat this one here. What's the 24? Can you find me 24 from these factors? I will say yes. So let's start with 3 times 2 times 2. 3 times 2, 6 times 2 is 12 times 2 is 24. Oh, so I have the 24. It is here, guys. Do you see that? This is 24. So the 24 I was trying to find is here. So what's left, which is not in 48? Only one thing left, which is what? Which is 2. So this means if I multiply the 24 by 2, bottom and top to keep the balance, that's I can get the denominator 24 and get the top as well. Now we are going to do the same thing with 16. Can I find 16 among all of these factors? Well, yes, I can. Let's try to do that. So I'm going to choose another number, and I will say here, let's take, for example, the maybe green color, beautiful green color. Can I find 16 among all of these factors? Yes, actually, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, that's going to make actually make a 16, isn't it? So when I say that, so I'm going to just try to, these twos like this two and this two and this two and this two will make 16. Okay, so I have 16 here. So that's a 16. What's left which is not included? The only thing left which is not included, if I use another color, let's use purple, is this guy. So this means that if you multiply the 16 by 3, bottom and top again to keep the balance, then you get everything in a nice way. Now I'm going to rewrite that. So I'm going to make this 2 times 5 is going to be 10. 2 times 24 is 48. It's going to be 48. Let me write it down in a nicer way. And then this is plus 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 16. 3 times 6 is 18. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1 is 48. So now I have a common denominator. Do you see that? I have a common denominator. So let's just write down this one is a nicer way. So I have a common denominator here. So now I can add these two fractions easily. So I'm going to add them. And I will make that 19 over 48. I keep the denominator as it is and just add the top. So 9 plus 10 is 19. This is the answer of the addition of two fractions having different denominator. So this is the least common multiple and the practice of least common multiple in adding a different fractions with different denominators. So what's the idea one more time before I finish today? I'm just going to give you a simple idea. First of all, you try to find the common denominator between the two denominators. You put them together and then you start dividing them by the common, I'm going to just repeat the first step. So I have, it doesn't matter if you write down the 16 in the beginning and the 24 at the end. So if you put 16 here and then 24 here, it doesn't matter. But the prime factors starting from 2 and 3, 5, 7, and the rest is not very big, important. We start with 2. So if I put 2 here, is any of these two numbers divisible by 2? Yes. Both of them. 16 divided by 2 gives me 8. 24 divided by 2 gives me 12. I repeat 2 as much as possible, even if there's only one of them divisible by 2. So again, 2, yes, it is. It is going well. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. 12 divided by 2 gives me 6. Again, 2 maybe. Yes, that's going to give me 2. This is going to give me 3. Is any of these two still divisible by 2? Any of them, at least one of them? Yes, it is. It's actually 2. So that's going to give me 1. But this one, as we said, if it's not divisible, so you keep it as it is. You don't change it. Now, is any of these two numbers divisible by 2? Not anymore. So we go from the first prime factor, which was 2, to the second prime factor, which is a 3. Now I'm going to divide these two by 3. 1 doesn't work, so you keep it as it is. So you keep 2 as it is, guys. You bring it down. It doesn't matter. And then 3 divided by 2. Well, let's put it here. 3 divided by 2. 3 divided by 3. That's going to give me 1. So when you have everything is 1, now you're going to make a sign for yourself. And that sign is actually the stop sign. So I'm going to write it down here. So there is a stop sign in here. And then I'm not going to continue. I say stop sign. And again, guys, I'm going to go and multiply all of the numbers from the bottom because it's easier. So 3 times 2, it is 6 times 2, 12 times 2 is 24 times 2 is 48. So the least common multiple is 48. So this is 48. So for the two fractions, as we said, we had the first fraction was 5 over 24 and 3 over 16. So 5 over 24 plus 3 over 16. Now we need to make both denominators 48. So we are going to seek, trying to find 24 among all of these. So we can see that a 3 times 2 gives me 6, times 2 gives me 12, times 2 gives me 24. So if I multiply all of these, that's going to give me a 24. So what's left from the prime factors, which is not included? The other one, which is only 2. So I'm going to put 2 here. So I will use this 2 to be multiplied by the denominator of the first fraction and the numerator of the first fraction. That's the first thing. Second thing, I need to find 16 among all of these prime factors. So where can I find 16? Let's try to find 16 here. So if I try to find 16, this is 2, and then 2, and then 2, and then 2. So this means that I have this 2 with this 2 with this 2 with this 2. That's going to give me a 16. So what's left if I take these 2's? Only things is left is actually the other one. I can rewrite it here. Maybe I can use a purple if it's possible. So only 3 left. So I'm going to use this 3 to be multiplied by the denominator of the second fraction and the numerator of the second fraction to make the fractions balanced. Now I am going to make my multiplication. 2 times 5 is going to be 10, and 2 times 24 is 48, plus 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 16 is 48. I have the same denominator. I keep it as it is, and I just add the top, which is 10 plus 9, and that's going to give me 19 over 48. If there's any simplification, I will do. If it's not, then I will keep it as it is. This is the end of the idea. So I hope, guys, this video will help you to find the least common multiple, and we can do the same with 4 or 3 fractions. It's as it is, 3 fractions or 4 fractions. So hopefully you got an benefit of this video, and thank you so much. See you next class.